Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're looking at a massive balancing act that impacts literally everything, from the taxes you pay to the roads you drive on. How do governments balance economic growth with economic welfare? How does a state generate wealth while making sure its most vulnerable citizens are taken care of, without completely bankrupting the system? It's a huge challenge, but today we're breaking down a fascinating research paper by Dr. Vijay Kumar that lays out a structured, compelling roadmap for how governments can actually strike this delicate balance.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going to unpack this complex issue logically, starting with the rising welfare burden, then looking at growth versus social welfare, reforming the welfare system, investing in human capital, and finally, the ultimate path to self-reliance. Let's get started.
So, Part 1, the rising welfare burden and the financial weight of unchecked spending. 5.41 lakh crore rupees. Just let that sink in for a second. By May 2024, that staggering number was the central government spending on welfare programs alone. Now, obviously, the intent to provide social security and improve living standards is absolutely crucial. But this level of unchecked expansion, it's creating an incredibly unsustainable financial load on government treasuries.
And this brilliantly illustrates the real issue, the sheer speed of this growth. Back in the 2021 to 2022 timeframe, central welfare spending sat around 2.88 lakh crores. But by May 2024, it had nearly doubled. This kind of explosion, which the research points out is often driven more by a freebie culture than sustainable development, puts immense pressure on state and central coffers. It just makes it incredibly difficult to fund the other essential things a government needs to do.
To put this into a real-world perspective, the paper looks at Telangana as a specific case study. Over a 10-year period, they allocated roughly 5 lakh crores to welfare schemes. In just one recent year, the state spent over 61,000 crores. The research neutrally points out the direct result here: severe, crippling debt. See, when a government has to borrow heavily just to fund immediate welfare, structural growth comes to a dead halt. We're talking about basic infrastructure getting neglected: the roads, the drinking water, the electricity, and quality education. The money simply isn't there anymore.
Moving on to Part 2, growth versus social welfare, or what we can call the economic tug-of-war.
This is the core dilemma for any policymaker. On one side of the scale, you've got economic growth. That's the engine, right? Increasing the production of goods and services and boosting national income. But on the other side, you have economic welfare, directly improving people's living standards through food security, housing, healthcare, and education. A government can't just pick one. They have to perfectly balance these two vital forces.
Now, what's really interesting about this approach is how it's anchored in objective academic rigor. Take Nobel laureate Amartya Sen, for example. He gives us this crucial caveat: yes, social welfare schemes are universally necessary, but they must be directed towards solving underlying development issues. If they just drain resources without actually building up capacity, they morph into obstacles that actively block economic growth.
And to contrast that slightly, we have a clear warning from prominent economist Jagdish Bhagatwi, which the researchers use to really hammer their point home. He warns that if you neglect development and focus heavily only on welfare schemes, you're literally just wasting economic resources. You can't just redistribute wealth, you have to constantly generate it. The takeaway? Both growth and welfare demand absolute equal priority for a society to function.
So how do we fix it? That brings us to Part 3, reforming the welfare system, fixing the leaks, and targeting the neediest.
Diagnosing the problem is only half the battle. Dr. Kumar'S paper outlines 20 distinct, actionable policy recommendations, and a massive theme across them is ruthless efficiency. For instance, welfare has to be targeted purely based on economic criteria, not politics, not caste, not religion. We need to completely eliminate duplication so only the unserved, truly needy populations get the benefits. And this is key. There has to be a cutoff. Once a beneficiary's income level rises, they need to be removed from the list to stop resource wastage and free up funds for those who actually need them. No more universal free bus rides or multiple ration cards per family if it's just draining the system.
The research also goes hard on transparency and holistic planning. You've got to enforce strict accountability to stop corruption in massive distribution schemes, things like housing programs or Dalit Bandhu. Plus, these programs can't just operate in a vacuum. They need coordination. Think linking maternity care directly with infant care. And geographically, planning has to make sense. You can't take a Plains region solution and force it on a forest community. Most importantly, sustainable development is non-negotiable. You absolutely cannot destroy forests just to distribute land for welfare.
So the crucial point when it comes to agriculture is that the paper offers a very nuanced take on farmer loan waivers. Basically, they shouldn't just be used as a standard political tool. They should only be rolled out during truly abnormal conditions, devastating floods, severe droughts, natural disasters, that kind of thing. In normal times, the state needs to rely on structural support. We're talking minimum support prices, comprehensive crop insurance, and modern tech training. Throwing money at regular debt doesn't fix the root problems in agriculture.
And building right on that agricultural focus, let's look at investment support schemes like Raithu Bharosa. The recommendation here is clear. Universal application simply drains funds. Instead, state resources should be hyper-focused on the 90% who are truly small and marginal farmers. It's all about maximizing actual, measurable impact rather than just making broad political gestures.
Which leads us perfectly into Part 4, investing in human capital, shifting the focus from freebies to true capital.
Think about it. If a government actually scales back on unnecessary freebies, where exactly should all that saved money go? Well, the paper argues it must be redirected into building true capital. That means ramping up investments in knowledge, specialized skills, and public health. By aggressively funding skill development, you actively combat youth unemployment in what is a very competitive, globalized world. And by encouraging entrepreneurship through initiatives like Startup India and Stand Up India, the state creates job generators, not dependents. Plus, getting the private sector involved through corporate social responsibility ensures everybody is sharing the burden of national development.
And this brings us to our final section, Part 5, The Path to Self-Reliance, Teaching a Nation to Fish.
Let's move to this breakdown and see how it all builds toward one supreme goal, using a metaphor the author explicitly relies on. Step 1. You have to stop just handing out the fish. Providing unnecessary freebies breeds dependency and waste resources. Step 2. You provide the skill training, the nets, and the resources. You teach the nation to fish. And Step 3. This naturally results in long-term financial stability. Citizens can finally stand on their own 2 feet, generate their own wealth, and actively contribute back to the economy.
This idea completely captures the ultimate synthesis of growth and welfare, which the source material defines as inclusive growth. It's the active process of achieving widespread economic growth, not through blind wealth distribution, but through targeted education, robust healthcare, genuine employment, and rigorous skill development for absolutely everyone, starting from the very grassroots level and working its way up.
So, we'll leave you with this final, provocative thought based on Dr. Kumar'S research. As we look at the billions being spent globally on welfare today, we have to ask ourselves, will our current policies build a dependent society, constantly waiting for the next handout, or are we actually willing to make the tough choices required to forge a truly developed, self-reliant nation? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. We hope this deep dive into the balance of growth and welfare has given you a powerful new perspective.